Welcome to this wonderful theatre space at Arnafini and to UWE's Bristol Distinguished Address Series. It's a particular pleasure to be able to host tonight's event at Arnafini. We have a really close strategic relationship with UWE, and we of course share this amazing harbourside building. And arts students and academic staff all mingle with the visitors and the artists who present here at Arnafini. So this is the latest in a series of events which UWE runs, and judging by the amazing turnout tonight, finding sanctuary in music has clearly struck a chord with many people. That's the only pun I'm going to do. So tonight really does promise to offer up inspiring insights into how you can make music with people in a way that provides a sense of belonging, dignity, and connection. And I can't really think of a time when we've needed this more, so it's wonderful to have you here, the Dovetail Orchestra. So just to introduce myself, I'm Suzanne Rolt, and I'm the director here at Arnafini. I'm also someone who has a really long-standing professional relationship and friendship with tonight's speaker, Dr. Jonathan James. You have to nod, John. Yeah. Now, I don't know if I've been following John around or he me, but over the decades, our paths have crisscrossed and we found ourselves landing in many of the same places. I was running the concert venue St. George's Bristol, which you can see above here, when the idea for the Dovetail Orchestra was just a little twinkle in John's eye and just coming into being. And then I moved on to Quartet Community Foundation, and again, John and I found ourselves sharing conversations about how music and culture could be a means of bringing people together, addressing inequalities, and supporting Bristol's many, many wonderful local communities. And then on to Arnafini, where I was absolutely overjoyed to find myself once again in touch with John, able to find new ways to share his love of music and art and his desire to make a positive difference to people's lives. So this interconnectivity really is a key part of the city and the region's DNA, and it's one of the truly great aspects, I think, of its cultural and academic scene. I'm going to introduce our speakers in a moment, but it just falls to me first. I have to do that little bit of housekeeping that we always do. So first thing is now is the time to turn your phone onto silent if you haven't already. And in terms of safety, we're not expecting any planned fire evacuations this evening. So in the really unlikely event that there is a fire alarm, the fire exits are just here on my left, and there are staff who will be in high-vis jackets who will be able to help you and to guide you out of the building. I should also say, if at any point you need to use the bathroom, the facilities are downstairs in the basement, so back out through this door here, and you can either go straight down the stairs or in the lift. So just a brief reminder that all of our events are supported by a code of conduct, and it's just there to ensure that any discussion can take place in an open, respectful, and lawful way, even when views or experiences may differ. So just want to put that onto the record, and just to say that UWE will be recording the event tonight, and it will be available on their website and media channels. So the kind of general kind of running order for tonight is that the main event, some talks, some performances, will run through until around about 7:30, and there'll be a chance for you, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, that's the time to do it then. And then once that's done, the event closes, but there'll be networking and drinks and a chance to see some slides of the Dovetail Orchestra, but also the exhibition, Manira Al Sol, which is outside in the galleries. So our host tonight, who I can just see around there, is Anria Adachi. And Anri is a classically trained music director and educator with a background in leading both community and music projects and mainstream education too. She's really passionate about increasing access to music, and her practice prioritizes participation, inclusion, and using music making to develop musical identity and social and emotional well-being. In her current role, where she's senior lecturer at the Centre for Music at UWE. She oversees all UWE's ensembles and personally directs the orchestra and the UWE Brass, alongside also designing workshops. Now, of course then, Dr. Jonathan James, he has been, this is embarrassing, but he's been leading musical workshops for over 30 years. We're all younger than we look. He began his musical career as a conductor before going into teaching and teacher training, and then he became a freelance music educator, working with orchestras, concert venues, community groups, and professional ensembles. He ran the Bristol Pre-Conservatoire for 14 years and is now a visiting teacher in collaborative creativity at the Royal Academy of Music, the Royal College of Music, and the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. I don't know how you find all the time, John. He's the creative lead for the National Children's Orchestra and a musicianship tutor for Albury young musicians. And he's also developing new models of musicianship for Cheltenham's and Wells Cathedral Schools of Music. And a really important strand has been his commitment to community music, for which he was awarded a British Empire Medal in 2024. Fantastic. And his current, I don't know if I describe it, I've written down here as project, but I don't think project is really what it is. That feels rather impersonal. I think his current passion and focus musically is the Dovetail Orchestra, some of the members who are sitting alongside me tonight. And that's a charity bringing people who've been displaced for various reasons from around the world to create music together in Bristol, Cardiff, and now London. But it started here in Bristol. It's really important to say that. Finally, just to say that I think as we listen tonight and listen to the musicians as well, I just wanted to highlight something important, which is the status of UWE as a university of sanctuary. And so much of tonight's talk and music kind of springs from that. And UWE was one of the first signatories to the Bristol City of Sanctuary Charter back in 2011 and was really, really proud to be awarded the University of Sanctuary status in 2025. And that's really nice because it chimes too with the fact that in 2025, Arna Feeney also was recognised as being Bristol's first arts organisation of sanctuary. So there's a real resonance and reason why tonight's talk and event and performance is being held here. So I think that the final thing I was just going to say is occasionally if you see a peace feast advertised at Arna Feeney, come along, because some of the musicians here are veterans of our peace feasts, and if you enjoy hearing what you hear today, there'll be many other opportunities, I'm sure, for performances, but when you see that peace feast, it usually means that we have some members of the Dovetail Orchestra with us. So I think I have covered all the points that I need to do, and forgiveness if I've forgotten anything. So I think now it is across to, can we welcome and some applause please for Dr. Jonathan James and Anne-Marie Adachi.
Thank you very much. Shall I do a dovetail? Shall I do a dovetail?
Yeah, do you want to go straight into it? Okay.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here. I thought I'd start with a musical dovetail so you understand what we do and you get to sort of feel it in practice. Before I do that, can I just introduce the wonderful selection from our 30-piece orchestra at the moment. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Liam. I'm from Scotland. I play bass.
Hello, my name is Esme. I'm from Brilliant.
Hi, I'm Pete. I'm from the old Czechoslovakia. Usually play drum kit, but tonight I'm playing the African boogadaboos.
Such a boogadaboos. Just saying. That's a great name.
Hello, my name is Chibo. I'm from Syria in West Africa. I'm a student in Milan Saxophone as well as singing as well.
Hello, I am Özcan from Turkey. I play Turkish and Kurdish traditional instrument called bağlama or saz.
Fantastic. Big warm welcome, please, to the Dovetail Ensemble. let's all be standing a bit. We're just going to do a quick dovetail. So if you wouldn't mind just going with, thank you so much. Yes, it's one of those talks, right? Okay. This is one of the most common rhythms that we use, sometimes called maksum. What I want you to do is take out your sort of, your kind of main hand, whether it's right or left, doesn't matter, put it on your chest. The other hand, you're going to put like a mirror to it. And you're just going to go between chest and like that. I'm going to do it with my left hand. It's quite cool. We're going to go dum da da dum da 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 da. You're doing a maksum, which is great. Common to many parts of the world. I mean, I know it as North African, kind of Middle Eastern. Yeah. Let's pick up that speed a little bit. So it's going to go dum da da dum da da. Great, you got it. You keep going here. So you're in North Africa, that's brilliant. You can come out of that. So here in the middle, you decide whether you're middle or on the right here. You're going to do a Latin American clave rhythm. Da, da, oh, da, 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 da. So we've got kind of North African meets lovely Latin American, Spanishy things over here. I think we'll go for a sort of a rolling West African vibe. So we're going to go ta-ka-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ta, ta, anofini, ba, anofini, yeah, anofini, yeah, anofini, yeah, anofini, yeah. Brilliant. That's it, brilliant. Congratulations, you've just done a dovetail. We've combined two, that's very impressive. What I like about all of this is that you can just speak a basic word. That's a basic word in music. And that's enough. You know how in a language, if you can say, hi, thank you, where are the toilets? You know, that's about enough. And immediately you have connection. So that's just our first point of connection. Here's an interesting thing. If I can just bring it down to one of those. What I love about this is the apparent sort of complexity that we can get out of simplicity. So that's part of what we revel in, because as human beings, we are, you know, infinitely complex, and we cherish that. And so we're always looking for surprise and complexity in dovetail. Let me just give you a very quick example. If we take this Turkish rhythm, dum, 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 cha, cha, dum, dum, dum. So it's kind of goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Great. Take it down here. Good. So keep it going. Cha, cha, cha. Now against that, I'm going to do the most simple thing possible. I'm just going to beat a simple beat. Keep going. Yeah. That's it. Great. So what I love is that you dum 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 taka dum 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 taka dum 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 da 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 da. So one measure of it is on the beat and the next one's off, and it just creates complexity, even though you're just going cha 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 like that. That's all that's required. Do have a seat. Thank you very much. Yeah. This is Elendindia Balama. We're going to use that, and so you've just learnt the rhythm to clap along in the chorus, right? So I just want you to be participants in the music. In Dovetail, when we have our rehearsals, there are no observers, there are only participants, okay? So we would be doing this. If you ever came on a Tuesday afternoon in Bristol, we'd get you clapping along. This is from Turkey, and it was introduced to us by Özcan. When he plays his balama, it's like a disco ball of light, right? It's glittering, isn't it? Disco ball. Yeah.
Elindedir bağlama, kara gözlüm anama. O günkü sözlerimi gavur anneme söyleme. O günkü sözlerimi gavur anneme söyleme. Aileni hem dayım, vurursun doğmuşluyum. Ableni ben kaçıracağım,
Gel ready.
enişten olacağım gayrı. Hop diri diri dak diri diri do. Ben yarimi seviyorum. Hop diri diri dak diri diri do. Ben tek bana ölüyorum. Hop diri dak diri diri do. Ben yarimi seviyorum.
Hop diri dak diri diri do.
Ben tek bana ölüyorum. Susadım su isterim, pınar nerede gözlerim? Ben pınardan dönmüyorum. Susadım su isterim, pınar nerede gösterim? Ben pınardan dönmüyorum, kezbanımı isterim. Ben pınardan dönmüyorum, kezbanımı isterim. Ailemi hem dayım, vurursun doğrusuyum. Ableni ben kaçıracağım,
Are we ready?
enişten olacağım gayrı. Hop diri diri dak diri diri do. Yarimi seviyorum. Hop diri diri dak diri diri do. Ben kezbana ölüyorum. Hop diri diri dak diri diri do. Ben yarimi seviyorum. Hop diri diri dak diri diri do. Ben kezbana ölüyorum.
Hey, well done. That's good. Brilliant. Would you like to take a seat at this stage? Thank you very much. Did I?
Go on. No,
Oh, right. Okay, that's fine. Are you okay, Ita? Okay.
Wow, thank you so much for that. That's amazing. It's so wonderful to have you here, actually, because we go back quite a long way.
We do.
We were at university together, in the orchestra together, and I've observed your career from afar with wonder, and this seems like something incredibly special that you're doing. So we've seen, we've seen how you work, and you're very true that it's very true that no one's allowed to come to these rehearsals and then just stand there. 'Cause
You've been,
I
right?
came to
You
one,
came,
yes.
yes.
And I think the expression on my face when you made me play the piano was very similar to the audience being told to stand up.
We're used to that. We sort of like go through it. You'll feel fine after 10 minutes, by the way. It's, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we can see what the Dovetail Orchestra can do, but I'm really interested to explore the sort of intent behind the conception of Dovetail Orchestra.
Yeah, okay. So 4 years ago, I was working with the Bristol Recovery Orchestra, and that's a project here with the Bristol Drugs Project. And it was deeply rewarding in its own way as well, and I noticed that there was a creative model there that worked. What happened was that we were working with people living with addictions of various different kinds, and we'd do 3 songs in each concert, and one of them would be a co-created piece, right? And invariably, at the end, the only thing that people talked about was what we created together. Why? Because they could hear the voice of the people coming through and sense this, that identity being revealed through the music, subtly but profoundly, and with a different kind of energy to when you do a cover. And so this combination of co-creativity, music as a regular weekly discipline, and taking a professionalism to an amateur group, expecting people to be on time, set up, as we still do in Dovetail, and wanting really high standards right from the get-go. I thought this is a model that could work in another community setting. I've always been very curious about other cultures. I'm frankly bored if I'm not sort of exploring a language or a culture or something different and new. And obviously I've been very moved by the whole immigration story where the politics has gone over the last decade, and it felt like that was the right match, the right community to try and do something positive.
Absolutely. I mean, the word sanctuary is very important here.
Yeah.
And what does that look like in a musical setting?
I don't know if I say sanctuary to you, maybe the Latin scholars amongst you might think sanctuarium and an inner sanctum, this kind of space in a temple which is protected and calm and serene and that sort of thing. Is that roughly what you think of with sanctuary? I don't know. It will mean something different to everybody in this room depending on your experience. But I reject that notion, particularly in a musical context, because I think for us at Dovetail, and I'd love you to chip in on this maybe later. For us at Dovetail, Sanctuary is more like a family dinner party where you've got cousins and characters and crisps on the floor and new girlfriends and everything's sort of like quite raucous, but there's still, a lock on the front door. It still feels safe. It's not sort of open to absolutely anybody. There's still a sense of family there. And it's that sense of connectedness and family connectedness that defines Sanctuary for me. It's a long-term thing. In Dovetail, we go through the year. We only broke for 1 week last year, and it feels to me that you can't say we provide Sanctuary, but only in term times. That feels a bit sort of odd to my mind. I'm minded, by the way, to just answer the question, perhaps, what is Dovetail? Is that, because has anybody seen us before? Hands up if you've, so, okay. You might know then, we've been going for 4 years. We're a music group, an orchestra in the loosest term. And we now have orchestras in Cardiff, which has been going for a year. Here, almost 4 years. In North London, they're in their second term now. The Brixton Orchestra is starting in April, so next month. We're hoping for a Taunton Orchestra, if we can get the funding. So by the end of this year, there'll be 5 regularly meeting music groups that have co-creativity at their core and improvisation and providing sanctuary through music as their mission. So that's what Dovetail is. I often define it as kind of 4 activities: rehearsing and co-creating together. We'll come into what that looks like and feels like maybe later. Concerts and recording, so sharing our work with as wide a population as we can. That's our kind of, sharing aspect. I think then workshops we're developing with schools and universities and communities where we try to bring in elements of dialogue, asking the question, how would you define your cultural heritage? How can we put that into music? How can we put that together? Can we do a dovetail? with your identities in the room, and it's very, very powerful. And then fourthly, we eat cake together. This is very important, because the whole professionalism thing means that we go at quite a pace, don't we? In the rehearsal, it's about music first.
Sometimes we cook as well.
We cook,
Yeah.
yes. We don't cook enough, I feel. We had empanadas this week from El Salvador, which are very tasty. So any way that we can casually share culture through food and conversation afterwards, that's part of Dovetail, but it's a kind of a music-first model.
That sounds amazing. I can see a few members of our UWE ensembles in the audience, so don't give them ideas about bringing food because they'll start wanting empanadas. I know I want one.
Yeah.
So this, in my experience, music creation is done so much better when you feel safe. So whether you are 5 or whether you are 12 or whether you are, 59 and relearning an instrument that you gave up when you were younger, this sense of feeling safe is absolutely vital to allow yourself to then explore new ideas.
Yes.
So how do you do this? How do you create a space that people come to and feel safe in?
How do we do it? Could you answer that? I don't know. It's about us all, first of all, having a stance of openness.
Firstly, we feel it before everything. Everyone feels it before they come, how the atmosphere they will be.
So even as people come in through the door, we're already playing. And my philosophy is to have a river of sound into which you are swept, right? And so there's no time to think, can I do this? Because most people come in who are kind of new to music will be going, do I have to play this instrument? How does this work? But if you actually learn through imitating and learn through doing, that is our main kind of model. Are there pedagogues in here? Because I did promise I'd talk a little bit about the learning model, and this is a bit about how we make people feel safe, but also unsafe. I think it's important for there to be challenge.
Risk.
From the risk, musical risk and excitement, and sort of like trying to keep up this. I think that's part of the pedagogical model and the thrill of it. Are there any teachers here? Great, so you know about Vygotsky and sort of 1930s Russian pedagogue who said there's this zone of proximal development, right? And the aim is for, almost by osmosis, for the less able learner to be drawn in to this area of development, this potential, through having it performed and modelled by a more able peer. Now that might be a tutor or facilitator, but even better if you have just people your own age, your own background, or just people who are your peers, essentially, that you just get drawn in to imitating and learning through doing, essentially. And so to do that, you've got to have an element of challenge and an element of flow. What I'm not very good at is giving time for learning guitar chords. This is true, isn't it? Because I think people can imitate Pete on the kit. Can they play C-sharp minor? Probably, that takes a little time. So we need to do, so we do guitar lessons and we do other sort of support things around that so people can learn skills as well. And that's about helping them feel safe and engaged and involved.
So you don't need to be an accomplished musician before you join, or whatever people perceive to be an accomplished musician. You can just join that journey and continue.
Wherever you're at. Wherever you're at.
That sounds amazing.
And just remain open to surprise. I think that's what part of the safety is. If we're all open-minded and trying to learn from each other, I think that creates a dynamic where people feel able to contribute. And I have to make sure that I'm learning, and I am. I'm learning every time we meet, and I think we're all learning. I think it's important that you hear from these guys what Dovetail is as well. Is that okay? Would you like to speak to that at all, anybody? Into the mic, into the mic. Is that on from there?
Hey.
It is now. Great.
Well, about this, for me, Dovetail is more than an orchestra. Yes. It's a place where different lives, different journeys, and different cultures meet. Because many of us, well, it's difficult to me saying in English, but I'm trying.
Keep going. You got this.
Well, I write something in Spanish, but I translate in English, if I can say it now. Yep. Can I read it?
We'd love that.
Okay. Well, many of us arrive with different stories, sometimes difficult ones. But when we play music together, those stories become harmony. And in that moment, we remember something simple and powerful, that music can create home, even for people who are still searching for one. And when people listen to us, they are not just hearing music, they are hearing our journeys, our hopes, and our humanity. So Dovetail is more than orchestra for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Esme. Yeah, I think that's a really important part, is the whole person being seen through that vulnerability of sharing a song, sharing something of their culture, particularly in public. And I like that thought of us embracing the whole person, where sort of racism tends to flatten the lens. We're interested in the whole being and the complexity of that, as I said earlier.
Of course, yes, because kind of ignorance and racism kind of go together. And then when you have knowledge and understanding of where people come from and what their cultural traditions are, it just opens so much more creation, doesn't it, for all of us? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you.
Did you want to talk about why now? Why Dovetail? Or
I think, should we do a little bit of why, and then maybe we should have some more music. We discussed this being a Desert Island Discs kind of format. So we can break this up, you're not just listening to us. And we'll come back to what Dovetail means to you guys as well. Why Dovetail?
Why Dovetail? Why now?
Well, I think, everybody in this space will be, I think, very sensitive to what's happening in politics right now. And it's been a general decline of compassion that we've seen really over the last 20 years. Obviously exacerbated by populism and other forces. And I think we've entered a very sort of zero-sum game where people are trying to out-reform reform. And there's quite a lot of just very, very worrying rhetoric around, even if these policies that Mahmoud's come up with recently don't actually get enacted. Just the rhetoric is incredibly powerful, and the media narrative is very poisonous at the moment. And I think I'm really proud of Bristol's history and commitments to diversity and turning up when there are the Patriot marches and standing against that. I think that's very important that we acknowledge that. But at the same time, I think we can't underestimate the weight and the burden that all this media narrative and kind of what you guys must be feeling, how heavy that must weigh on a day-to-day basis. And I think of that, and I think of the loneliness of hotel life, and I think that Dovetail is necessary, now more than ever, really, and continues to be so.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I just had a couple of questions for you, actually, about that, because you must have faced some obstacles beyond the sort of financial, practical side of establishing this. Did you face misunderstandings or even hostility by people who didn't get what you're trying to do here?
Actually, not yet. What was interesting, 4 years ago when we set this up, mainly white, middle-class music team at that point, we tied ourselves up in knots around not being sort of white saviours and being worried about that and getting proper representation at every level from trustee downwards and trying to get it right. But what was interesting was that the questions that we were being really exercised about didn't actually come from our participants and our members, but were more generated by us as a team. And it seemed that we were there was a level of performed guilt almost, that we were locking ourselves into a certain way of thinking and needed to accept that we too had something valid to offer. And the whole model of Dovetail is that we try to bring ourselves into the musical mix as much as every other country. So it's a true sort of melee of accents and musical dialects. And that's valid, and then that has integrity. We're not pretending to be, a Turkish specialist when it comes to violin, or to know anything about, well, I don't know anything about West African drumming. Luckily, Pete does. But, we bring our own accent to it, and it's okay that we also own where we're coming from in terms of our social background. And I think, the bottom line is we couldn't allow our social privilege and our awareness of that to become a paralyzing thing. We had to find a way of, doing community in a way that felt truly diverse and egalitarian, where everybody has a role, everybody has a contribution. And that I think I come back to this main kind of measurement, which is, are we learning from each other? And I think when we are, then there is a true democracy at play.
Yeah.
And when we're not, then there's a danger of a power dynamic which could be unhealthy.
But you could always find reasons not to do it, but then that would be a terrible shame.
Yeah.
So I think you're right, even if there's an element of chaos to the beginning of something like this, to just...
We've sort of worked through that.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that was mainly an internal kind of discussion. And I think we'll carry on having those discussions, and it's really important. And part of the reason we continue to have the dialogue element to workshops, we ask, where are you from? Which from a white middle-class male to non-white might be perceived as quite threatening depending on the context. We try and unpack that and say it's okay to answer this in lots of different ways. And part of the exercise is to sort of define identities through multiple lenses and to find artistic and musical expressions of that then feel safe and celebratory. But not to shy away from the question of identity.
Of course,
and
of course. I mean,
how
that
beautiful it is,
question,
actually.
where are you from, is one that just makes me laugh because, personally, I've often found that if I say, oh, I'm from Bristol or I live in Gloucester, you get that silence and then no, where are you really from?
You get that
yeah,
still, do you?
I do.
Yes.
And obviously, it doesn't offend me, but it's that sense of, oh, am I... what's my actual identity? What do I identify as? And it's an interesting question to explore for anybody, regardless of where you do come from, indeed. That's great. Shall we do some more
music?
And then I'd love to talk about how you actually make all of this work.
Yes. Okay. Well, should we have all the team on, and should we do a yibu? Should we do that? Yeah, let's... So you've got to imagine this with about 25 more people, where we create an unholy noise. This is one of the 4 songs that Jibo has created for us. And in terms of the techniques involved, we might talk about that afterwards, how songs like this come into being. So we might just sort of play this. If you feel in good voice, you might like to sing along. There's a sort of a call and answer thing. Yeah. Yeah, why not? Let's do that.
Why you dey lie to me, Mi mamma viene con mi evo. Mi parire con mi evo. Mi anzine con mi evo. 1, 2, 3, go. Stand, please, stand. Let's enjoy the music. Music brings us together. Why you they like to me, Mi mamma viene con mi Mi sister viene con mi Mi auntie viene con mi
Here comes the chorus. 1, 2, 3.
It's not Togi Togi. I tell you, buddy, they say. Tirina the day, I can't go show na to it's me new law. They call a yip. Buddy, they say they want to see them. I put my shoe on and my lace. And the guy walk like Mr. Big Man. Original school compound now. They are tall, see you.
Chorus, 2, 3,
Come on. So they watch me. Who are you talking to? I'm not Sabio. That's not my shame one.
1, 2, 3, One of many Jibo classics. I think you should just stay, they should just stay here, right? Yeah. Jibo, could you just tell us how you would define Dovetail. We were having a meeting of the music teams yesterday, and I was going into, well, Dovetail, we're xenophiles, we love strangers, you know, we're all these things, and yet there's this problem with the subject and object and with that, and then Jibo just cut through with your own definition. Do you remember what you said?
I think let me try, even though I don't want to be trying to be philosophical, or maybe let me
No, do it,
let me
do it.
remember again. I think I used 3 words on that workshop. You see, when the family are together, the community is safe, and when the community is safe, the world is a better place. So that's what Dovetail is defined as, because we come together from different parts of the world with our different mindsets, and even though we have our own issues and stuff, but when we are in that building, it's like the power of love. You can see the joy, the peace, the unity. I think that's what we need. That's what Dovetail is.
Thank you. It's much better than my definition.
It's a fantastic definition.
Yeah. Oh dear. Thank you.
So I can see that you're, a lot of what you do at Dovetail has a huge sort of improvisational element to it. And I don't know whether you agree with this, but certainly in the UK, from what I've experienced, people are quite terrified of improvising in the sort of Western classical music tradition.
Improvophobia.
I know I am.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
am. It's kind of the way we're taught. But out there in the big wide world, there are so many different ways that music is taught. And many of them are quite improvisational, aren't they? So you use this a lot, don't you, in your rehearsals?
Yes. We always start with a collaborative improvisation because we're always surprised by what new colours come up there, and once people get used to that, then it's a beautiful way of everybody feeling seen and feeling heard right at the get-go. It's the most bonding thing possible. Again, from a sort of a model point of view, and the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming, is not using anything around challenge or it's hard or we'll start slow or anything like that. It's just having a warm expectation that people will find their way in, and they do. And so our role as kind of the professional music team is just to set up some warm water for people to dive into musically. And I will know that, if I'm doing it in A minor for guitars, that's great for them, but it's awful for Jibo on the alto sax because he's in F sharp minor, and that's not great or whatever. So I've got to make some musical choices about setting up a space for people to join. But generally, it tends to be a sort of a container for quite a lot of emotions at the beginning. For example, I'm thinking of Roxana and the outpouring of her kind of free chant. Roxana is from Iran. Do you want to speak about that as her partner at all? Just what's going on there? And do you want to use the mic?
I'll use this one. Okay. Just kidding. My name's Pete, and Roxana is my better half partner for 28 years now. And she is Iranian. And so obviously everything that's happening and has been happening since last summer, and especially the last few weeks, has been hugely traumatizing for her and her family who are in Tehran. And also how that works with Dovetail is that we have quite a few refugees or asylum seekers, our neighbours, our friends from Iran, who come regularly to the sessions. And Roxana's job is not just to be the lead singer on one of her beautiful tracks, Murada Bus, but to be a backing vocalist on all these different musical forms that we're exploring. But her other role is a kind of pastoral friend, exactly what Jibo was talking about, that we're a family. So there will often be, you'll see Roxana again, as we make ourselves available half an hour before we start playing, we're very open as the professional music team, so that we can talk. We can just say, how you doing? How's your family back at home? These kind of things.
In Persian, in Farsi.
In Farsi,
yeah.
For Roxana to really communicate with her diaspora. So that's a really important part, that there's a safer space where people can talk as much or a little as they like in this pinpoint moment in history right now. And what Jonathan was alluding to just now is we had an extremely emotive session where Roxana led the song Medar Gabus, which you'll be able to hear on our new album that we just recorded.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Yeah, somebody's got to.
And that was extremely beautiful, musically in particular, in what we call the kind of alap or kind of free form, very emotive. I think we're in a Phrygian kind of scale.
Yeah.
And in that moment, a lot was held in that space, if that makes sense. How music just does that without words, with magic. And I think that is one of the extraordinary things that Dovetail does so well, because we're such a professional team, but we're also really open and inviting, getting into the warm water, like Jonathan was saying. But is that there's a togetherness as a family and a sense of belonging. So it works on many layers for many people, and I think that's one of the beautiful aspects. Particularly, the longer people come, the regularity of it allows that to happen. So it facilitates a lot in any given moment. I'm going to stop.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
There's some, yeah, thank you. It's interesting, I mean, in terms of how we bring these songs together was one of the questions, apart from the collaborative improvisation, which is about trust, by the way. You know, we're building trust. And aside from that is just empowering people to make some choices about how they orchestrate. So with Jibo and with Ercan, more and more, we're asking you to come to the center and say, no, I want that pizzicato, no, I want that, I don't want that on the saxophones. Can we do this bit? I want the chorus to be 4 bars, not 8. And so you're making these choices. In fact, we had a session where Jibo said, right, let's lock this down now. So I'm see myself increasingly as a scribe and just trying to faithfully capture what these guys want.
But it's such a lovely, creative way to work, because once you stop being afraid of that improvisation, you realise that actually music written down can be a little bit of a jail. You know, you can't break out of that box, and I think what you're doing is amazing. We've got
to have that sort of flexibility, actually. Yeah. So what often happens is, even in a set song, for example, last Tuesday, Ercan said, look, we've got this terrific Kurdish singer here called Rodin, right? And you said, in the middle of this song where we had chords and we were following along, you said, right, let's just do a drone and allow Rodin to go free in the middle of Gül ile Bülbül. Was that good? I'm working my ears, you know. So, which means the rose and the nightingale. Yeah. And so that means, and because we've been improvising anyway, it's not a scary thing. In fact, it's our safe space. So we've just been counting like mad, 3/8, 6/8, lots of chord changes, as is often the case with Ercan. And then we just call a drone, and I just do this, which means go free. And everybody goes, oh yeah, okay, so we know what to do, that's fine. Okay, good. So that, but listening hard, you know.
Fantastic, that's amazing. I just wanted to point something out that Pete had mentioned about how isolating it can be, especially when you're worried about what's happening in other parts of the world. But just it's isolating to be different. And certainly my experience of being, especially in secondary school, I found that you had to kind of make yourself small, because the best way to survive was just not to be noticed. So the idea of highlighting and certainly celebrating your differences was just not done. And so it's just delightful to hear that you've been doing some workshops in secondary schools about cultural awareness. Can you tell me something about
what's
that?
weird about this is, in secondary school and in primary, you'd expect them to talk about cultural heritage and identity, which they do in sort of geopolitical terms, and that's part of the...
Yeah, this was a long time ago as well, I should just say.
But actually what we found in 4 or 5 different schools, it doesn't matter whether state or private, is that actually this dialogue that we've been having and saying that where do you come from, and how do you define yourself, what are you proud about with your cultural heritage, this is the first time they've had this conversation. And we're dealing with sometimes sixth formers, and they haven't actually realised that the other person across the room speaks their language, or that they've got a shared history in South Africa, or that there's speak Dari or whatever it is. And these things are happening for the first time in a Dovetail.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
It
because
surprises
I think
me
people
is that
create
you wouldn't
these
naturally talk about it.
hard shells.
It's still taboo.
And it's a kind of camouflage to just try and blend in with everybody else. I mean, you can't, but you try. And then the fact that people don't gravitate towards each other unless you give them the opportunity is like... It's fantastic.
But that's what we're noticing at the moment.
So what kind of positive feedback have you had from the students and the responses?
The last one we did, I think you were there for it in St Ambrose where we rehearsed. It's in St George. Oasis School came along, and there was, I want to say, was he Afghan or Iranian kids? Yeah, that's right. Who was feeling very left out of his school group, and to the extent that the teacher's a little bit nervous, would he participate? By the end of the session, Ercan had sort of gone alongside, as had Roxana. He was singing stuff from the piano. People were singing with him in his language, partly. And apparently the teacher said on the way back in the minibus, it's the first time she'd seen him smile, the first time she'd seen the other kids take an active interest in him and chat with him. And that seemed profound.
That will have been a life-changing,
I hope so.
affirming experience.
Yeah, you never know, but it feels this is what people get seen. I use the word person. I'm into languages. You might have noticed. So personare in the Latin, it comes from the Greek theatre actually, where you threw sound, per sonare, and the idea was that your voice was heard through the mask, and so in order to hear the person, you have to be seen and heard through the mask, per sonare, to sound through.
So your identity is what you say.
Yes, and I think music has a way of increasing that resonance and having that direct, maskless connection when it comes to your voice, right? And the more vulnerable it is, the more special and the more held we make it, I suppose.
That's fantastic. Are we okay for time? 5 minutes. Did you want to do another?
I think so. I mean, absolutely. Should we? Who have we not heard from? Should we do La Llorona? Yeah, that'd be nice. Just a verse and a chorus of. Can you tell us a little bit about this song?
Well, La Llorona is the proud lament of love, and is transcend the death and the time. So the strongest love represents, for example, the love of a mother for her child, for her children. So that is mean La Llorona is the strongest love.
Salías de un templo un día, llorona, cuando al pasar yo te vi. Salías de un templo un día, llorona, cuando al pasar yo te vi. Hermoso y piel llevaba llorona, que la Virgen te creí. Hermoso y piel llevabas llorona, que la Virgen te creí. Ay de mí, llorona, 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 de un campo lirio. Ay de mí, llorona, 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 de un campo lirio. El que no sabe de amores, llorona, no sabe lo que es martirio. El que no sabe de amores, llorona, no sabe lo que es martirio. No sé qué tienen las flores, llorona, las flores del campo santo. No sé qué tienen las flores, llorona, las flores del campo santo, que cuando las mueve el viento, llorona, parece que están llorando, que cuando las mueve el viento, llorona, parece que están llorando. Ay de mí, llorona, 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 de un campo lirio. Ay de mí, llorona, 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 de un campo santo. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío.
Yeah, brava, brava. Thank you so much. We were gutted when Esme moved to Swansea, but luckily you don't mind Flixbus. You're okay on Flixbus. Yeah, which is yeah.
That's brave.
Yes, it is brave. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Esme. I think is it time for questions? Yes, so if you have any questions for John or any members of the Dovetail Ensemble, please do let us know.
No problem. Take your time.
There's a microphone coming your way.
Feels like a deep question coming
Yeah, okay.
So how does one kind of form one of these in the first place, like an orchestra? I'm just wondering how they're formed, really.
Good question. You mean the sort of the practicalities of starting something like this?
Yeah.
Right, so I spent quite a lot of time going around Bristol's 15 charities in this sector, explaining the idea and seeing if they could share the word and flyers and things like that. And then we had a taster day, which we invited people along to. I think, Erjan, you were there at that taster day, possibly. And we explored what worked and what didn't work. And then we just went for a launch, and we started with, I think, about 10 people. And we're now sometimes 35, even more than that, but generally around the sort of 25 to 30 mark. And a lot of kind of fluctuation within the community. I did some stats, and it turns out that over the 3 orchestras in existence so far, we've worked with, was it, let's say 500, do you remember, was it 5,765 people seeking sanctuary? So that, yeah, it's sort of, it's working well so far in that sense.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I just wondered, how do you see it expanding?
Yes, thank you very much. With your help, I think. So the quick answer to that is to look at the number of orchestras that are in play. So I've talked about there possibly being 5 orchestras by the end of this year, at which point we'll cap it and say, let's just run that for 2 years. But the thing is, I'm having to turn down people from Birmingham, from Bath last week, constantly saying, can we set up a Dovetail? And I said, well, I'd love that. However, we're not quite there yet in terms of capacity. So I think there's a real demand for it and an understanding of the model and a desire to work with that. Expansion for me also looks like going deeper with our musical process, getting more involvement from the people already in the space in terms of how they compose and create with us, building the trust around that, the skills around that. It also looks like more workshops. This is the year of more workshops, because there's a big need for that in schools and other communities, actually. So we're finding them, as I said earlier, particularly powerful for us, actually, to experience the connection that we feel within 5 minutes with those school children, and seeing them after just 2 hours of working with them is really quite profound. So something's working there, and we want to do as much of that as possible. Yeah. Funding model. It started with a Kickstart campaign, actually, and some people in this room I know very kindly contributed to that. And we got enough just to do the first term. And after that point, we got the Arts Council involved to the tune of 5K. That we're now putting in a bid for 120K from the Arts Council. There are various trusts like the Max Reinhardt Trust and other grant-making trusts that have got involved, either being Bristol-based, like the Nisbet Trust, or, of course, my mind's gone blank. There are about 5. If you're in the room, we're very grateful. There aren't subs. In fact, we pay for people's travel. We try and remove financial barriers. For Chibo to come every week, we pay for travel, for Esme and others. So it's important to us that it's absolutely free at point of access. I'm trying to think. We're trying to do more through our concerts as well, and raising income through tickets. So we're excited to have entered into a more formal partnership with Trinity, the Trinity Centre at the centre of town in Old Market, and we've got a good deal with them. And the idea is to do workshops with the communities that are already active there, like the Sudanese Women Group and others that might have less access to music making. And to build up this kind of satellite program around each concert event. Honestly, out of the last 3 gigs that we did last year, it was standing room only at all of them. So we're really excited about that. And I think we'd love you to sign up to our newsletter on the way out so you can hear about our performances, because it's a very emotional event, particularly when you see 25 of us on stage all getting into a groove. It's quite powerful, I think, the music alone.